Welcome back to On the Grid Podcast, Season 4, Episode 12. And today we're going to be reviewing our Australia Grand Prix predictions and looking forward to Japan at the weekend. So, joining me as ever is Adrian Keita. How are you today?
I am as good as I can be. It's another early start yet again after Australia, a week or so ago, as we're recording this. But yeah, I'm excited for another race weekend. Looking forward to this one.
So, yeah, like you said, another early weekend this weekend in Japan, but I think it's manageable. I think this is manageable this time. It's a 6 a.m. race start, better than the 4 a.m. in Australia. So I think we can put up with that, considering there's a lot of countries have to get up at ridiculous o'clock every single race week. So yeah, and then we got qualifying. It's not till 7 a.m., which is basically a line, isn't it? So yeah, we're not too bad this weekend. And yeah, definitely a lot more manageable than in Australia. So why don't you kick things off and give me your two-star predictions from Australia? How did you get on?
So I got 1 out of 2, which is not too bad. My first one was Albon points, and he was pretty much on the brink of a point, finishing in P11 that he finished in, just behind the two Haas drivers, which it's not awful. But for a Williams team, which could have capitalized with obviously George Russell retiring, Lewis Hamilton retiring, and Max Verstappen retiring, it's not fantastic. But I did predict three DNFs, and that is what happened. Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, and Max Verstappen. So it could be worse. But I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it. 1 out of 2.
So I also got 1 out of 2. I also had Albon in the points, but obviously he didn't get in the points. And then I had a safety car or a red flag, so I will be taking that point quite happily. Moving on to qualifying then, not too bad. I am taking a second point here. So I got 2 out of 5. I got Verstappen on pole. I had Leclerc and Sainz second and third, Norris fourth, and Piastri fifth. I am having the point for Norris in fourth. So I know he started third, but he qualified in fourth. So I'm having that point. So obviously Sergio Perez qualified third, got that penalty, but I'll be taking that point. So 2 out of 5 from me. How did you get on in qualifying?
Right. Okay. So if we're going on that basis, can I have Sergio Perez in third?
Yeah, I'll allow that. I'll allow that.
Okay. So I think I also got two. Because if we're going from that basis, we're not counting Oscar Piastri from P5. We're counting him as P6
No.
then.
So you can
Okay.
pick which point you get. You can either have your point for Perez or your point for Piastri. Which one would you prefer?
No, I'll take my point for Perez. I'll take that one. So I had Max Verstappen on pole position, which he obviously did. Charles Leclerc in second, but it was actually the other Ferrari, Carlos Sainz. Sergio Perez third, Carlos Sainz in fourth, and Oscar Piastri in fifth. So I'll take 2 out of 5, but I'll take it for Sergio Perez qualifying third.
And then what about the race? How'd you get on for then?
So the race I predicted Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Sainz, Norris. And in matter of fact, it was Sainz, Leclerc, Norris, Piastri, Perez. So I didn't get any. I mean, I did get four out of five of that top five, but they were in the wrong order. So yeah, I told you it could only get worse for me from for predictions. So yeah, I got a whopping big fat nil point for the race. So a 3 out of 12 in total.
So I also got 0 points for the race, sorry. So I had Verstappen, Perez, Leclerc, Sainz, Piastri. So yeah, not the greatest. So Leclerc almost finished third in the end with Norris. Could have turned out quite differently. But overall, and obviously Piastri actually was only one place away. But yeah, not the worst from me, but I'll take 3 points each. So I haven't lost any ground in overall. So how many points do you want after 3 rounds?
Don't actually know. Well, I'm obviously 3 for Australia. I can't quite remember how many points I got for Bahrain. Actually, let me have a look. So I got 6 out of 12 from what I can see for Bahrain, and I got another 3 out of 12 for Saudi. So I think I'm on 12 out of 36, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, the comment section might rectify my counting, but from my notes and more I can see, I'm on 12 out of 36, which isn't awful. Um, but it's 6 points away from 50%. So it's all right. It's all right. I'm never good at these predicting things.
Okay, so you're on 12 points. I'm on 10. So, I've not lost any ground there. Obviously, I had that shocker in Bahrain when you got quite a few points. I pulled a point back last weekend or last time out in Saudi. And then we've drawn 3 apiece in Australia. So then before we get on to our Japan predictions, we'll look at a couple of talking points on the grid. So first of all, Carlos Sainz, he's the man of the moment right now. So we've given him 2 out of 10 performances. You would have seen that graphic on our Instagram. So 2 out of 10 performances from us, a third place and then a win. What does he do next season? Because there's a lot of talking about where he goes. Obviously, he is out of contract. There aren't a lot of top seats. Where do you think Carlos Sainz finds himself this time next year?
Well, we're already starting with silly season about Carlos Sainz. There's like we said, I think we've spoken about Carlos Sainz. It's like Max Verstappen, from last season where we were constantly talking about Max Verstappen and how great he was. Now we're talking about Carlos Sainz and his kind of fortunes and where he goes, because obviously Lewis Hamilton stepping into that Ferrari for 2025. I couldn't pinpoint one team. Well, I mean, one team you could possibly pinpoint is Red Bull. His father's obviously got linked with Red Bull. He's an ex Red Bull junior, so it'd be leaning towards Red Bull and pairing alongside Max Verstappen for 2025. Um, because I generally think that Mercedes would go for like a Fernando Alonso to pair up with George Russell, and then Aston Martin are likely to maybe get Yuki Tsunoda from that Red Bull's team to pair Lance Stroll with Aston Martin. But for me, I think only one logical team would make sense for Carlos Sainz, and that is Red Bull. Because why would he make a step backwards to Aston Martin or to a Red Bulls or to a different team? He's only got to look forward because he's entering his prime in Formula One. And I think if he is to ever have a chance of snatching the world championship, this year could be crucial, and maybe 2025 with a Red Bull team. So for me, one logical team at the moment sticks out, which is Red Bull. But if he is to kind of stick it out for one more to sit on the sidelines for 1 year and maybe go to Audi, for example, in 2026, pairing alongside, you never know, Sebastian Vettel, for example. I'll put it out there. That could be another option, but for me, I think the only viable option for Carlos Sainz is to go for that Red Bull seat for 2025.
It's very interesting. I think a lot of it depends on what happens with both of their drivers because Red Bull are in a bit of shaky ground at the minute. There's been a lot of talk that Sergio Perez is going to lose his seat at Red Bull. There's been a lot of talk that Max Verstappen is going to walk away from the team. So it depends what happens in both those drivers. I think Sergio Perez has done all he can really at the start of the season to put himself in a good position for next season. Um, Obviously, Australia, he had a disappointing race. He only finished fifth, I think it was in the end. But the first 2 races, you can't fault him at all. He'd done exactly what the team wanted him to do. He was second comfortably, but never looked like challenging Verstappen and never was going to close in on him. But that's not what Red Bull obviously want from him. Another shout could be that Mercedes. But then again, Mercedes are probably looking for someone a bit more short term, whereas Sainz is only sort of 29. He can go for another sort of 5, 6 years at least in F1. So with Kimi Antonelli, they've got a man for the future there. They don't want to miss out on him. So I think if they don't give him that seat within sort of 3 years, he might look at a different team. But that's given the fact that he gets a seat in F1 for next year and impresses from the get-go. So it'll be interesting to see. Another shout could be Aston Martin if Fernando Alonso ends up in Mercedes. However, I think that's getting more unlikely by the week. And then the big one from pre-season would have been Stake. And I'm sorry, Carlos Sainz is too good a driver to end up at a team like Stake, who are right at the back, despite the fact they're going to be changing to Audi in a couple of years' time. He can't be that low down on the grid. Surely not. But moving on to Haas, who have had a very good start to this season. So they are up in 7th at the minute, only 2 points behind RB in 6th. And they have got points in 2 of the 3 races. Hulkenberg's on 3 points. Kevin Magnussen's on 1 point. It's been a very, very good start this season, hasn't it, for Haas?
No, you're just dropping it like that to me, like that on me. That's fine. Yeah, it has been a good start. We were speculating, and we've even in our season predictions, as everybody's watched that video, um, we've kind of put Haas in the lower regions, and that's not on the basis of their performances currently. That was even before pre-season began. Um, and I mean, I wasn't with most teams. I think you expect a lot of them to be sandbagging and to not bring their best to preseason testing. And I think this year kind of showed it a lot because there was teams up and down the grid that showed a lot of promise, that showed relative improvements from 2023. Haas have gone. I wouldn't say they've gone under the radar, but they've gone around the business quite quietly, and especially the teamwork on display. I talk a lot about teamwork when it comes to Nico Hulkenberg and Kevin Magnussen because we've seen in the past they've not necessarily got on. But I think as last year went on, their understanding between each other got better, and especially in Saudi Arabia, what Kevin Magnussen did for Nico Hulkenberg is an absolute minister of the Danish defense job. And he did all he could, and he secured a point for his teammate. And then what happened in Australia obviously transpired to them getting a double points finish for the first time in 2 years. So it's a good start from them. They just kind of need to build on from what they've got so far. Kind of they've sort of laid the foundations this season at the beginning of the season, and they've just got to keep going at it, keep plugging away, making sure that they qualify in the best place as possible during the race weekends, and their qualifying performance has been relatively good as well. So qualifying is important for them. Their race pace hasn't usually been amazing. So hopefully they can sort of balance it out, do a little bit of a balancing act this time around, and get as many points finishes as possible, and gain as much prize money as possible, because that's what that is what is key for a small Haas team.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know how valuable that sort of prize money that they would have got from Saudi Arabia when, like you said, Kevin Magnussen put a Minister of Defence performance in. Because I think a team like Haas, they will definitely have deals with their sponsors where they have bonuses for points finishers. They will get a decent sized bonus for getting a points finish, and that's what Hulkenberg done, and that's what Magnussen allowed him to do. And you don't know how crucial that little bit of money could be to, getting an upgrade here, which improves the performance or whatnot. But I think they've been really impressive considering themselves as they thought they would be absolutely nowhere, particularly at the start of the season. Has been really impressive from them. Another bit of news. So Williams are expected to have 2 chassis for Australia, for Japan, sorry, but they're not expected to have a replacement again. So meaning if we have a repeat of last weekend, when Albon obviously binned it in FP1, then Logan Sargent will have to give up his car yet again. Be interesting to see if Sargent bins it, then without a spare chassis, whether Albon gives up his car. But I think we all know the answer to that. Yuki Tsunoda coming up for his home Grand Prix. He obviously has had a very good start to this season, a brilliant performance in Australia. Can he have a bit of momentum going forward? Can he put himself in the spotlight for that Red Bull seat, given, he's had a good start to the season. He's absolutely cooking Daniel Ricciardo. What can he look forward for next season? Because I think his contract's up as well at the end of the year.
I've already said it at the start of this episode. Aston Martin. Um, I think there was a lot of speculations at the back end of last season with Fernando Alonso potentially departing at the end of this season to pursue other adventures. And I think that if Carlos Sainz gets that Red Bull seat, then Fernando Alonso jumps into Mercedes. And when Mercedes get the man, obviously Aston Martin will have a free slot at their team. And I think Yuki Tsunoda fills that spot. It is a step up from, I think, it is a step up from the Visa Cash App Red Bull's team for Yuki Tsunoda because he's been at the team for what, 3, 4 years now? I think I know he's a Red Bull junior and whatnot. But I think those ties will always be there for Yuki Tsunoda if he is to continue to perform very well. And I think he might get his chance at Red Bull. Like you see, Ayumu Iwasa, he's jumping into Daniel Ricciardo's seat for FP1 in Japan. And I think maybe if Daniel Ricciardo does not perform, does Yuki Tsunoda stay and the VCOB team have two Japanese drivers? For I believe it would be the first time that we've seen a Japanese pairing, if I'm not mistaken. That could also be interesting. So for Yuki Tsunoda, all he can do is just show what he can do. Put as many points finishing displays on as possible, and just doing the best job he can. Because obviously, all 20 drivers will be in the shop window regardless. And they just want to make sure that they secure their seats in their respective teams. But for Yuki Tsunoda, he'll be definitely looking to go elsewhere after having a couple of seasons at AlphaTauri and VCOB. So he's most definitely one to watch out for the remainder of the season. Where he goes, I don't know. But if he is to move, I think the Aston Martin seat might be calling him.
So moving on then to we'll get into it for this weekend. So I'll start off with my 2-star predictions. I've gone for no stake pit stop drama. I'm not saying they're going to have a 2-second pit stop, but I'm saying they're not going to have a 30-second pit stop. And I think that is a bit of an out there suggestion after 3 races of absolute catastrophe at stake. And then for my second one, I've gone for Hamilton to beat Russell. I think Hamilton's come under a lot of flack, and rightly so, actually, because his performances this year have not been good. But I think he's going to step it up. It's only a matter of time until he kicks into gear and he shows what he's about. There's a reason he finished third in the Drivers' Championship last year. So it's only a matter of time.
So for my 2-star predictions, I'll start with the home favourite Yuki Tsunoda to get some points. I think in his home race, I think many people will back him to get points, and I've backed him to continue his point scoring spree into his home race. And the second star prediction in qualifying, I see Red Bull and Ferrari occupying the front 2 rows. So that is Red Bull 1 and 2 and Ferrari 3 and 4.
Very interesting. Why don't you give me your quali predictions now as well?
Well, I've said Red Bull, Ferrari 1, 2, 3, 4. So obviously on pole position, Max Verstappen. I don't see it going any other way. Sergio Perez in second. I've gone with Charles Leclerc ahead of Carlos Sainz. I think Charles will have a point to prove after Carlos Sainz's performance last time out in Australia. And I've gone with George Russell in fifth.
Okay, and for mine, so I've gone for Max Verstappen to take pole position. I've gone for Carlos Sainz to yet again be on the front row. So that'd be a 1-2 again, the same as in Australia. I've gone Lando Norris up in third. Now, McLaren were very handy at Suzuka last year. And I think they're going to be quite good again this year. So I've gone for him up in third. I've gone for Charles Leclerc fourth. And I've gone George Russell up in fifth. And then for the race, I've gone Max Verstappen to win. I think he could win by about 30 seconds because I think he's a little bit annoyed that he got knocked out in due to a problem that wasn't his fault as well. He said it himself. It was a really stupid way to just not finish. And after we saw his last retirement, which was also Australia, he went on that crazy streak of winning every single race from Imola onwards, but it's now obviously Japan. I've gone for Carlos Sainz to stick it up in second as well. Sergio Perez to claim the final podium spot, Charles Leclerc to stay in fourth, and Lando Norris to drop to fifth. So what about your top five for the race?
So mine for top five for the race is as simple as this. Max Verstappen to win the race once again. He's going to go on a mad spree. I believe he will go on a mad spree once again. I've gone with Ferrari 2 and 3, so I've gone with Charles Leclerc second, Carlos Sainz in third, Sergio Perez dropping down to fourth, and I see Lando Norris popping up the top five in fifth.
Okay, and that is all we have time for on this episode of On the Grid Podcast. Thank you all for listening. Thank you, Adrian, for joining me. We will be back next week to review our to give our 1 to 10, to review the Japanese Grand Prix and review our predictions as well, because it's a double header we've got coming up. So we'll be also looking forward to China as well, which is the race after. And so we will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.